Hello and welcome to my channel. Thanks for popping in. If you're new, please like and subscribe for me. If you find this content helpful, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on the next video. Comment below with your thoughts or topics you'd like me to cover, and check out my website, consultingninja.tech. With that out of the way, let's do some OAuth2 with PocketBase, Google, and SvelteKit. In this example, we're going to have a sign-up form. A user can fill out the form or click the Sign In with Google button. If you click that button, it will take you to the Google sign-in page. And if you're already signed into your account, you can just select one. Otherwise, you'd enter your name and password. And then from there, we'll send this information back to SvelteKit, and SvelteKit will send it to PocketBase, where we'll create a new account if it doesn't exist. If you want to see how to do this, stick around. That's what we're going to do right now. So the very first thing that we need to do in order to make all of this work is we have to have Google set up correctly. You will have to have a Google account, and just type in Google Developer Console in the search bar and click the Google Developer Console link that comes up first. Inside of here, you need to create a new project. This is pretty straightforward. There's no detailed information here. Just give it a name that you're going to remember. The location doesn't matter. Once you have a project created, and I'm just going to use the one I've already created here, it'll take you inside of the project dashboard, and this is what you'll be presented with. Now we need to go into the navigation menu and go to APIs and services, and the first thing that we need to do inside of our project is create an OAuth consent screen. Now, I already have one created. You can only have one consent screen per project. And so I'll just edit this and walk through the steps. So you have to have an app name. This is what will be presented to your users. You have to have a user support email. This would be the support email that users would send information requests to. You don't have to give a logo. That part is optional. All of the app domain stuff is optional, and then the authorized domains, you can enter in your authorized domain, or in this example I just put localhost and left yourdomain.com. If you are using a production app, it would be whatever your authorized domain is. And then for developer contact information, I just have the same email address as the support email address. In the next step, here is where we need to add or remove scopes. Scopes are what information your app is going to be using from your users. This will all be empty by default, so you need to click add or remove, and the basic three that you're going to need are the very first three. So we need to be able to see the primary Google account email address, personal information including personal information that has been made publicly available, and then we also need to be able to associate someone with their personal information on Google. If you need any other scopes, there's many of them here. They're all listed. You just select which scopes your application needs. The one thing I'll point out here is that the more detailed and specific and personal information that you need, the more stringent they're going to be in their review of your application. If you're choosing just the basic three and you're in testing, you won't need to go through the review. So after you've selected the scopes that you need, then we go to the next step. You do have to have test users. So in this case, I just used myself. You just click add users and add an email address in here. And then the last step is just a review of everything that you've selected, and then you just save it. Once you have your consent screen done, now we need to create some credentials. So click on the Credentials tab, and we want to create credentials, and we want to create OAuth client ID credentials. So here we select Web Application. This name is just a name for you. This is not going to be shown to your users. You can call this whatever you're going to remember. For your JavaScript origins, in this case, you're going to want to enter localhost 5173. So it'd be / localhost 5173. Authorized redirect URIs. This is where Google is going to send a user after they sign into their account or select their account. And so for us, we'll need to enter, we can copy this, localhost 5173/OAuth, and then click Create. Here it gives you your client ID and your client secret. These are the two pieces of information that we need to enter into PocketBase. I'm not going to use these because, as it pointed out in the previous screen, creating a new client ID can take anywhere from 5 minutes to several hours. And so for the sake of this video, I want to make sure that things are going to work. But what we need to do next is inside of your PocketBase dashboard, you need to go into Settings. Down in the authentication area, select Auth Providers. We need to enable Google, and then from that screen, the client ID goes in here. So you take the client ID from Google here and enter it into the client ID section here in PocketBase. And then we need to enter in the client secret from this screen into the client secret section here in the PocketBase dashboard, and then you just click Save Changes. So that's all the configuration that's needed in order to make this work with Google and with PocketBase. Now the rest of the magic is going to happen in SvelteKit, which is going to create our UI and run all of the PocketBase commands. So inside of our source code, our SvelteKit source code, the very first thing that we need to do is let's create a hooks.server.js file. I already have one here, it's empty, we'll fill it in together. And what we need to do is inside of our hooks file, we're going to fire up a new instance of PocketBase inside of our hook. So import PocketBase from PocketBase, and then we're going to export const handle, and this is going to be async, of course. And we need to pull out event and resolve. This is actually going to be a pretty basic hook here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do event.locals.pb is assigned new PocketBase. And then I have PocketBase running locally here at 127.0.0.1, port 8090. And then we just need to resolve. So response equals await resolve event, and then return the response. So now we're going to have one instance of PocketBase available in all of our other pages. So give that a save. Next, we need to have a sign up page. So I'm not going to go into detail into the markup, but I do want to show you inside of the markup for the sign up page, we have two forms. One is the regular sign up, and down towards the middle of this file is a second form. And what's important here is that we're sending this form to the OAuth2 action. If they choose not to register using the regular form and they want to instead use Google, then we're going to ping a separate action. That is what is important from the markup file. The rest of the magic for this section is going to happen in our pluspage.server. So inside of our pluspage.server for our signup page, let's go ahead and import redirect. We are going to need to be using redirect and not the type, the lowercase r, redirect the actual function. And then we want to export an empty load function. I'm not going to make use of this for the sake of this video, but you probably would want to in a production application. You probably would want to use this in a production application to get all of the authentication methods and pass those to your page and then only render out the ones that actually exist. I'm not going to get into that. I'm just going to return an empty object. I did want to make this available for you guys though, so there it is if you want to do that. What we do need to do is export const actions and sign up. This is the regular sign up. We'll just leave this blank as well, because we're not going to actually do anything with that in this video. So we'll leave that one empty, but we need an OAuth2 action, and this will be an async action, and here we are going to get into the magic. So we want to pull out cookies, URL, and locals. So the very first thing that we're going to do inside of here is let's get our authentication methods. These are the methods that PocketBase is saying are available. So auth methods equals await locals.pb dot collection users, and then do a dot list auth methods, just like that. And if you want to see what comes back, let's do a console.log, and we'll just console those out. So save that, and in our application, go to the sign up page and then click the sign in with Google button, and this is what comes back from the list auth methods function. We have the username and password, and then here we have auth providers, and this is a list of all of the providers that PocketBase has enabled with the name, a state, a verifier, a challenge, what method is going to be used, and then an auth URL. So that's what comes back in that function. So what we need to do is, now that we know what methods are there, we need to double check in our action. We need to make sure that this went through successfully. So let's just do a if not auth methods. So if there are no auth providers, what we'll do is we'll return an object that says auth providers empty, and then outside of that if, next, here we get to where we're actually going to be doing some cool stuff. The very first thing that we need to do here is set a redirect URL that we're going to send with this request to Google. So const redirect URL, and we're going to use the backticks. This will be $URL.origin, and then outside of the brackets /OAuth. So this is telling Google where we're going to redirect, and Google's going to check that when it gets it. And then we're going to do a const Google auth provider, and this is going to be auth methods dot auth providers, and we only have one here, so we can just pull out the first, but you could also go through them and find the name that you're looking for. But for us, it's just going to be one auth provider. It's going to be Google, and so we won't do that here. But what you would want to do here, if you have many of them, is just go through and find the one that the user chose. Then we need to do a full redirect, so auth provider redirect. This is going to be another, let's use the backticks again here. This is going to be a couple of things put together. So let's use the backticks again, and the first thing we need is $ Google auth provider dot auth URL. This is that giant string that we saw, and then just after that $ their redirect URL, which is what we just put together. Now, the next two things that we need to do are, when you first fire up this list all methods function, what it does is it generates a state and a verifier for each auth provider. We need to save both the state and, in this case, also the verifier to cookies, and then we'll check the state later, and we'll have to use that verifier later, because every time you run list auth methods, it generates a new one. This actually stumped me for a little bit, but I was able to figure out what was going on. So we need to save the state, and this will be Google auth provider dot state, and verifier. This is going to be Google auth provider dot code verifier, just like that. And then we're going to set both of those in cookies. So cookies.set state to state, and cookies.set verifier to verifier. And then the last thing that we do here is we throw redirect, and this is going to be a 302, and then we send to the full auth provider redirect, which is the specific URL for Google with the redirect URL that Google is going to check. So let's go ahead and give that a save. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to create a route for receiving this. We told Google and we are sending to Google to send this back to a separate route. That's going to be the OAuth route. So create a new route called OAuth, and inside of there just a plus server.js, and this is going to be a get route. So first we need to import the redirect again, and then we're going to do an export const get is assigned async, and we'll pull out locals again and URL and cookies. Now here we need to pull some stuff out of a few different places. Before we start pulling out information though, we need to set up our redirect URL again, because this gets checked. Redirect URL equals the same thing as before, backticks, $ brackets, url.origin /OAuth. Then we need to pull out the expected state. This is what we saved in the cookies, so cookies.get state. And then here's the one that stumped me for a while, and this is the expected verifier. And that's cookies.get. We saved that to verifier. Now the reason why this stumped me is because you should be able, in theory, we could have pulled out that instance of PocketBase from here and ran the list auth methods function and pulled out the verifier from there. But looking at the PocketBase documentation, I realized that every time you run that function, it's generating a new verifier. And so I was getting to this step and the state was matching, but authentication was failing. And that was the reason why. So I worked through the problems so that you guys don't have to. Make sure to save your verifier and send it through cookies to the receiving route so that you can use that one that was generated with that state. All right, so now we need to pull out the state that Google sends back. So const state equals await url.search params.get. So Google is going to send back a state in the URL params, and then we need a code. This is the code that Google is sending. Await url.search params.get code. Now, if you wanted to, this could be, I'll add these in here for you guys. These might be good places to do some console.logs if you're having issues. So url.search params so that you can see what's coming back from Google. And then we'll add one here, a console.log of the expected. Expected state. And that will be expected state. And then here after this, after we pull out those params, let's do a console.log return state. This is what's coming back from Google. And then this is the returned code from Google. That way you can see what's coming back if you run into any issues. I'm going to make a comment here as a side effect of this next function. So the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to run that list auth methods again, just to make sure that PocketBase is recognizing this as a a legitimate authentication method before we even attempt. So as a side effect, this will generate a new code verifier hence why we need to pass the verifier back in through a cookie. Alright, and then we're going to run the list auth methods again. So const auth methods equals await locals.pb.collection, and we're selecting users .list auth methods, and we can just do some more error checking here. So if not auth methods .auth providers, then we can do a console.log no auth providers, and we'll just redirect back to sign up. So throw redirect 303/signup, and we probably should put a question mark there, because if it doesn't come back, we don't want to completely error out. And then pull out the provider, const provider equals auth methods dot auth providers sub 0. Again, if you were using a whole list, you would check to see which one is coming back. You'd probably put that in a cookie or a param. And then if the provider is not there, so if not provider, then we'll do a console.log and say provider not found. And then again, we can redirect back to sign up, so we can copy this. Now we need to check the state. So if the expected state is not equal to the state that Google sent back, well, then that means somebody messed with the interaction and you should not accept it. So we'll do a console.log and say returned state does not match expected. And if you wanted to, you could put the expected state and the state so you could see the difference. And then again, we'll just redirect back to sign up. Now here we're going to do the actual attempt to authenticate using PocketBase. So let's do a try. We're going to do await locals.pb.collection users, and we're going to do .auth with OAuth2 code. This is the newest way of authenticating using OAuth with PocketBase. They have a version that you could run from the client. I'm not a fan of doing things in the client these days. I used to do everything possible from the client. Now I'm the opposite and try to do everything from the back end. It just gives you more control and a little bit more security in my opinion, but that's just me. So this is the way of doing it from the back end. So what we need to pass this is we need to pass the provider .name, the code that we pulled out of the params, the expected verifier, that's the one that we sent back, and the redirect URL. This needs to match what was used in the beginning. And optionally, just after this, also, you could pass an object. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's add a name in here. My awesome user. And this is going to create that user if it doesn't exist. And in the process, you can pass in this information. It will set those properties on that user when you create it. All right, then let's catch errors and just do a console.log, say error signing up with OAuth2, and then we can just print that error out. And then lastly, outside of the try catch, we're just going to redirect back to wherever you'd like. For my sake, I'll just redirect back to the home page just to make things easy. Alright, give that a save. Now in our application, we can go to sign in with Google and we can select our account. I'm already signed into my Google account, so I can select that, and it's going to send us back to the auth route, the OAuth route. All of our functionality there is going to run. We're going to take that expected state and compare it. We're going to pull out the code, and then we're going to ping our PocketBase with it. And when PocketBase gets it and sees that that user doesn't exist, PocketBase will add that user into your users collection. So if you select users from your collections tab and hit the refresh button, there you can see our user has been added to our user collection with an ID. We did not provide a username, so PocketBase gave it one. There's the email address from Google and the name that we added in that optional object when we did the authentication. So there you have it. There is OAuth2 authentication using PocketBase, Google, and SvelteKit. I hope that you found this video helpful. This was really fun. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, comment below with your thoughts, and as always, have a great day.